What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
We are here for another episode. Another Crime Bitches episode. I feel like I'm like in the 1950s.
Why?
Because they used
The
to do that.
1950s?
Yeah, because they used to listen to the radio and it was like, welcome to the episode of the Cinnamon Bear. Whatever. That's what I just felt like. Sorry. Just whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how it be. That's how it be for me. Anyways, yeah, here we are. We are recording another episode, another one, because we have a bunch of stuff we have to do. And I feel like my life is just falling apart because I'm trying to get everything done and there's just not enough time. There's not enough time in the day. Ever. Literally ever. So there's that. And I'm already like pre-planning shit that comes after New Year's. So I'm having a day. Anyways, we are going to be talking today about a murderer. I don't know if you know that's what we do on this podcast, but that'd be where it at. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I'm like, are you good? Like, I'm paying attention. Dad asked me a question.
No, I'm legitimately like not knowing what else. I told you my brain is just so shot. I have no brain left. I have no brain left. Anyways, do you want to just get into it, or do we have anything we want to address or talk about before we continue?
No.
Okay. You are a boring person every time. Like, at least on Fatal Blend, Dad and I at least talk about like what we're drinking and like.
Okay, first of all, I don't even have a drink.
I understand. We don't have to do what we do on Fatal Blend. It's just weird.
Fun fact, Olive's in here.
She's in here half the time. And why is she in here? Because she pees in my garage. Anytime that Sierra's not around, she pees in my garage because she's rude. She thinks she's sly.
She's trying to get closer to her Gigi.
She's sneaky. Okay, anyways, yeah, let's get into it because honestly, I think these next couple episodes, who knows? They could go fast. They could go slow. I'm not really sure. However, we are talking today about a man named Matthew Milat. Now, if you have listened to Fatal Blend, that name might sound familiar, and you are correct. Sit tight. Hold on, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. So what we're talking about is on November 20th of 2010, Matthew Milat murders. I apologize. I'm going to always apologize. I know I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm going to butcher this name. He murders David Oucher-Terloni. Now, again, I am pretty damn sure I've butchered that name, but it's really hard it's hard to Google how to say people's names because there's like 875 million ways to say and pronounce people's names. So this murder actually happens in Belanglo State Forest, and this is in New South Wales, Australia. So this is an Australian case. Now, there was not a lot of information about Matthew's background, partially because when he was actually born Matthew Muleman. So there is not very much about his early childhood. However, there is one very important thing in this case, and that is that his great uncle is the infamous Ivan Milat. Now, Ivan Milat was an Australian serial killer, also known as the backpack killer or the backpack murderer. We just did an episode on this on Fatal Blend. So if you listen to Fatal Blend. I have
not listened to it yet.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. But I'm just saying, like,
normally I do, but
if it sounds familiar, he is related. They are related. Ivan Milat, just so you know, he was actually known for murdering backpackers in the Belanglo State Forest. And yes, I said that in the beginning too. So putting it all together. Now, the state forest is in New South Wales, Australia. Again, at age 14, Matthew actually ends up changing his last name to Milat. Now, when Ivan Milat went to jail, Matthew Milat was like a baby. And again, this is his great uncle. So this is actually Ivan Milat's brother's daughter. It's her son. So it's not his uncle, it's his great uncle. Okay. According to some of his friends, Matthew's friends, he was really proud of the fact that he had Ivan as an uncle. He was really proud of the fact that his uncle was a serial killer. And he like flexed his muscles about it. Like, yeah.
I would never flex my muscles about something like that.
Me neither, but I mean, whatever. He would actually brag about Ivan being his uncle while in school. So he was like it was known amongst basically all of the students in his school that his uncle was a serial killer. And again, it's not like his uncle like was not known. His uncle was famously the backpack murderer. Like it was a big deal in the 90s. So as Matthew decided to venture through high school, some of his friends actually started to pull away from him because he started to like talk about dark things. He also was like not very popular in school. As a matter of fact, somebody who went to school with him after this whole thing came out, they had said like, oh yeah, like we know who he is, but like he's the one. Okay, I did not say this. A person that went to school with him said this. The person said, oh yeah, Matthew Milat. Yeah, he wasn't cool. Like we weren't friends with him. Nobody really liked him. He was the one who sat in the back with the ADHD kids and the loners. That's what they said about him. So he wasn't, which by the way, fuck you, sir. Fuck you, sir. ADHD kids, fuck you. ADHD kids are kind of cool. I'm not even going to lie. And no, I don't have ADHD, but my son does. So they're cool. Leave him alone. Anyway, so basically he wasn't well liked. And part of it was because he was very quiet. He had like withdrawn himself away from like most of his friends, and he had turned into like a dark, kind of like just really into like the dark stuff, you know, kind of like what I picture I could have potentially been like in high school, because I was always so interested in true crime. I wasn't withdrawn. I didn't like talk about true crime and then like seclude myself. I was like, yeah, just like a normal going through phases of high school. He does end up having like a small group of friends that he's closer to, and that group of friends is the ones that he would like talk about how his uncle was a serial killer and how not excited, but how like, oh yeah, the Milats, like we kill people. Like that's the kind of stuff that he would say. So this brings us to November 20th, 2010. Matthew Milat, Cohen Klein, David Aucherteroloni, and Chase Day, they're all going to meet up and celebrate. Celebrate what, you ask? Oh, well, it's David's 17th birthday. The boys, the four boys, they're like friends. So they meet up in their usual spot. And after a little bit of time and hanging out, Matthew was like, hey, we should go to the Bel Anglo Forest. And Chase was like, why the fuck would we go there? Like, why are we going to the forest? One, part of it, I think they knew that his uncle was the backpack murderer, and everybody knew that the backpack murder took place in the Bel Anglo Forest. Everybody knew. That's where the bodies were found. And so Chase was kind of like, that's weird. And even David was like, that's really weird. Like, why are we going to hang out in the fort? Like in the Bel Anglo Forest? I don't understand. Chase, because Chase was interviewed after this, and Chase said, I mean, it just seemed like the two boys, that Cohen and Matthew, just wanted to go and have a good time. And that was just like one of the things they wanted to go do. So I was like, okay, I mean, I guess. And then Matthew responds and says, well, I just want to go there because it's David's birthday. Like, let's go there and let's fucking celebrate. Let's party. Let's smoke some marijuana. Let's, hang out. And so then Chase asks him, okay, but why do we need to go all the way to Bel Anglo Forest? Can't we just do that shit here? Like, can't we just go like hang out somewhere around here and do that? To which Matthew replies, well, yeah, we could. But to be honest with you, I also want to go check out the plaques that they've put out there. Now, the plaques he's talking about are plaques that they put in place where Ivan had dumped his victims' bodies. So in that forest, apparently there are plaques somewhere along the forest where they found these bodies. Because again, if you don't know who Ivan Milat is, he killed people in the forest and buried them in the forest. And so where they found the bodies, apparently they have put like, I'm assuming like memory plaques or something. So that's what he says. So the boys are like, okay, I mean, I guess cool, let's go. So they all hop into the car and they drive to Bel Anglo Forest. Now, once they get into the forest, Matthew and Cohen, they actually head to the boot of the car. And for those of you that are not from Australia or anywhere else that says boot, it's the trunk. So for Americans, it's the trunk of the car. So they head to the trunk of the car and they ask David, like, hey, you want to come join us? My guess is they were probably like, hey, come join us. We're going to smoke a joint, right? Because that's what they're there for. Well, at that point, David is attacked by Matthew. Actually, for 15 minutes, David is attacked, tortured, and then murdered by Matthew. And there are points during this time where he's actually being chased by Matthew, who was chasing him with a double-edged axe, and he was attacking him with it. Also during this time, Cohen is filming this whole thing on his phone.
Jeez.
Now, Chase, the other kid, is no fucking idea what's going on. So he is like, he said, I saw Matt with this is his quote. He said, I seen Matt with an axe and I said, what are you doing this for? Then David starts screaming, like crying and telling Matt to stop because Matt had hit him. Then Chase asks Matt, like, what are you doing? Like you need to leave him alone, like stop, like asked him to stop or whatever. And that's when Matt turns and looks at him and said, you need to stay the fuck out of this and get back in the car. And so Chase does, because at this point, I mean, this man's wielding a fucking double-edged axe at this kid who's your friend. They're all friends. And one of the kids is recording it and telling Chase, get in the fucking car. Matt's telling him, get in the fucking car. So he's like, okay. So he does. He goes and he said he went and sat in the middle of the back seat of the car. And he said that he like just put his head down like in his hands, and he could hear, but he wasn't looking. And he said that all he kept hearing was David yelling and running and begging and telling and like pleading to like stop. And then all of a sudden David's cries and screams stopped and it was silent. And that is when Chase knew that Matthew had killed David. It had been stated that the last 10 minutes of David's life were filled with unimaginable torture. And so from what they said was David was actually originally struck in the stomach with the axe. So that was the first swing, was he took the axe and hit him in the stomach. And then that's when he starts running around and he's pleading for his life. And then eventually, after being like swung at multiple times, it wasn't just like one and done, he continued to hit him with this axe. The killing blow was actually to his head, and he bludgeoned him to death with the axe. Now, his body was also buried. The thing that's really interesting about this is I have no idea like how they got caught. But what I do know is that the body was buried, and it was reported that before the incident happened, so before they even went up to Bel Anglo Park, Matthew had rubbed his hands together and said, we're going to Bel Anglo. Someone's going to die. Okay. So this is,
first of all, that wasn't a fucking red flag. Well,
I am almost wondering if the only person who heard him say that was Cohen, not the other kids. Now, I don't know how they get caught, because all of my research, it does not ever talk about them getting like how they get caught, but it doesn't say like anything about did David's family report him missing, and so that triggered something. Did Chase go to the cops and that triggered something? It doesn't say anything. All it says is that he was arrested. That somehow, some way, Matthew and Cohen both get arrested. My speculation, if I'm being honest, is that Chase called the cops, like after they came back into like the town from Bel Anglo Forest. And the only reason I say that is because Chase was the only one out of the three that didn't get charged with anything. Cohen and Matthew both got brought up on charges, but Chase did not. So to me, normally when you're there,
like a plea deal.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like normally when you're there and then you go to the cops and say, I'll tell you everything you need to know, but I should get immunity. Now, it never said he got immunity, but that's my guess, because I don't know why he would not have also been brought up on charges, only because it's accomplice. Whether he knew it was happening or not, it's like guilty by association type thing.
That's what makes me think, though, that the parents like may have reported him missing, and then they were like, you know something.
Well,
like,
or the other thought I had was maybe they didn't bring him up on charges because when they asked him, he maybe he didn't come forward, but as soon as they asked him, he was truthful. I don't really know. I don't know. But anyway, so he didn't get brought up on charges.
Well, it's also Australia. So
yeah, it's
different there anyways.
Inevitably, Matthew and Cohen both are arrested and charged with the murder of David. Now, Matthew was 17 at the time of the murder and Cohen was 18. As a matter of fact, Matthew was only a couple of weeks away from his 18th birthday. Keep that in mind. Now, during the trial, this is like fucking gut wrenching. So during the trial, they actually played the phone recording. Now they played it. Now they said that the jury and everybody were able to listen to it. They didn't like show the footage, but it was videoed. It was videoed. So there's video of this. First of all, it shocked the shit out of David's family because nobody told them that they were going to be using video footage of his murder. So could you imagine sitting there at your son's murder's trial. And all of a sudden, one of the evidence is, oh, by the way, we have this 15-minute phone recording of the murder. And all of a sudden, here you hear your son pleading for his life. So they did. I mean, at one point, the judge did stop and say, like, you guys can leave. And they were like, nah, like, I'm going to stay, which bravo. That was kind of fucked up. And then also the recording shows that Matthew was the one who attacked and tortured David. Cohen did not, and Chase did not. Matthew was accusing David of making up lies and spreading them around town. And so like they have the script of it. And at one point he literally like hit him. And then David was like, please stop. Like, what are you doing? And he said, well, I need to know, are you, what the fuck are you saying about me around town? Like, I've been hearing things. And he's like, I swear to God, I didn't say anything about you. And he's like, well, that's not what I hear. He's like, I give you my fucking word. He goes, your word doesn't mean shit. And he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you if you don't tell me the truth. I'm going to chop your fucking head off if you don't tell me the truth. At one point he even said, stop looking at me, motherfucker. Well, not motherfucker. He called him a cunt. He said, stop looking at me. And he was like, and then he was like, if you look at me again, I'm going to chop your fucking head off. So you can tell in that moment, you can know that like this kid's on the ground being told. And he's like, put your face in the ground, put your hands on the ground, just fucking sit there. And he was David was forced to basically be on the ground with his face in the ground. That was what he was told to do. And he still ends up killing him. So regardless, he obviously had a plan to kill him from the get-go, right? The recording also, it can also be heard in the recording multiple times, David begging and pleading for his life. Begging and pleading, which I couldn't even fucking think. And the worst part of it, not that that's not bad, the worst part of it is you can actually, at the end, you can actually hear the sound of the axe hitting him in the head.
That's disgusting.
And that's terrible. Like, you hear him pleading for his life, you hear the sound, and then there's nothing. Now, the total time of this video recording was 15 minutes long. So he was tortured for 15 minutes. And it is believed that the torture might have started a little bit before the recording started. At one point, Chase, so the other kid, is actually heard pleading for them to stop. Okay. And Cohen actually tells him to get the fuck back in the car. So now you've got Matthew who's told him to get back in the car. You've got Cohen who's told him to get back in the car. And Chase is actually on record begging for them to stop hurting David. So it was also shown that Matthew had written a poem 9 months before the attack. And this poem was eerily fucking similar to the actual attack, to the point where the judge was like, you definitely premeditated this murder, because you literally described it to a T in 9 months before you even did it. And no, I don't have the poem. He does write poems like in prison too, but this particular poem they had found was written 9 months before this attack. It was also discovered that the two boys had actually tried to hide the axe in a watering hole that was known as Mermaid, and they all would like frequent there. So obviously this was not like we accidentally killed somebody. This was definitely a premeditated attack. And so they tried to hide. Obviously they found it. I saw a picture of, look, you'll have to look it up. I saw a picture of the weapon, because there is actually, the evidence pictures. So look up Matthew Milat weapon or whatever. It's fucking scary. It's fucking scary. It makes me think of like the fucking Reaper or some shit. It's really scary. And they also found out that after the murder, Matthew was actually bragging about this to like people he knew. He was actually quoted as saying to like some of his friends, like, the last name Milat? Well, I did what they do. And so it's like it was the referencing that his uncle was a serial killer. Now on June 8th of 2012. So again, remember this happened in 2010. So 2 years later, Matt and Cohen they both actually plead guilty to murder. And Matt receives 43 years in jail with 30 years of mandatory served without any parole. So he has to be in jail for at least 30 years.
Shit looks like a medieval weapon.
That's what I'm saying. I saw that and I was like, God damn, like, oh my God, that's scary. So Matt receives 43 years, 30 years absolutely have to be served with no parole. So after 30 years, he could apply for parole and whatever. Cohen gets sentenced to 32 years in jail with 22 being served without parole. Okay, so that's in 2012. Now in 2014, Matt and Cohen both tried to appeal their sentences. Now, the claim for Matt is that the sentence is extreme due to his age because he was 17. Now, they also argued that he did not mean to kill David and he was only going to hurt him and scare him. No, the fuck he wasn't.
Sure.
His defense also tried to argue that he, Matthew, was not a substantial risk or serious danger to the community. Again, really?
Sure.
And that he should have been given a reduced sentence for entering an early guilty plea because instead of going to trial, he literally admitted and pled guilty to murder. He pled guilty to murder. And so they're like, in this country, when somebody pleads guilty, they get a reduced sentence for admitting it. Okay, so that was what they said about Matt. Now, Cohen's lawyers also had a bunch of things and they were just like, yeah, his sentence is really severe. He didn't even kill somebody. He recorded it, yes, but he didn't kill. He didn't plan. He was just there and he just recorded, which for all we know, he could have been doing because he was scared of Matt. We don't know, but 32 years for that's a long time. So this is what their thing is. So Matt's appeal was denied. So they said, no. Now, this means that he will be 62 years old when he gets out of prison if he serves the whole sentence. If he serves the full 43 years, he will be out of jail when he's 62. The judge that denied his appeal said, it is well beyond what has been imposed in almost all this, because the judge said, originally he said, is this punishment severe and extreme? Yes. However, it is well beyond what has been imposed in most all other cases of young offenders convicted of murder to which the court was taken. But it was an adult crime, the gravity of which was difficult to overstate. If Milat was only a few weeks older, it would have attracted a mandatory life sentence. So his point is, yeah, he got a really heavy sentence, but
rightfully so, because if he would have been 18,
if he was 18, he would have probably
gotten an even worse punishment.
And that's what his point is. Literally 2 weeks later, if he would have done this 2 weeks later, he would have been having a much larger sentence for the same crime. So he's like, yeah, I understand, but no. Now, Cohen, on the other hand, they did end up actually reducing his sentence. And for whatever reason, they didn't give a reason why, but they did. And at first I was like, really? Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like, yes, sir, you deserve to be in jail too. Cause you could have stopped. You could have not recorded. There were 4 of you there. 3 of you were not being attacked. 2 of you could have banded together and fought Milat to get him off of David and save his life.
Yeah, but I could also see how they reduced his sentence because he didn't actually commit the crime.
No, but
he was an accessory.
He was an accessory, but the fact that he just stood there and watched, So anyways,
which means he knew about it.
Right.
I mean, he had to have.
So he does get it reduced. And at first I was like, what? But here's what his reduced sentence was. So I was like, okay. So again, his original sentence is 32 years in jail with 22 mandatory without parole. It got reduced to 27 years in prison with 20 years, no parole. So he has to serve 20 years regardless.
Not that much, though.
He didn't get reduced by that much. So I was kind of like, okay, fine. Unfortunately, Matthew Milat is seen as almost like a hero currently in prison. Since he's a murderer, so when you go to prison, the murderers have a higher status, like literally amongst the other prisoners because you're a murderer. They don't hate you. I almost wonder if they fear you because you are not afraid to kill, right? Mm-hmm. So Matthew, being that he is Ivan Milat's great nephew, of course, he talks that up in prison. Well, my uncle is the backpack murderer, which everybody knows who that is. So already that's got him some status, right? And then on top of it to be like, himself. I axed my friend to death for talking shit about me, which, by the way, if you want to know the shit he was talking, was Matthew Milat had been told that David was going around telling people that Matthew had stolen money from his mom, from Matthew's own mother. So Matthew stole money from his mom. And that's...
Bro, it's like fucking 5th grade or 4th grade all over again.
Right?
What the
so
fuck?
That's the shit he's talking. Now,
but I didn't murder her.
But according to David's family, David would have never done that because that just wasn't his style.
Even if he would have, that's fucking
bullshit. That's not worth murdering
No.
somebody. So that was literally the shit he was talking. And
yes, you fucking know that at 17. Don't try to give me some of that bullshit. Of,
no, you're right.
No, you fucking know.
Yeah, you know. So anyways, so he is like, again, kind of at a heroic stance in the prison. He actually is described as from people who work with him in the prison. They describe him as a charming individual that can easily manipulate other people. So he not only is sitting high and fucking pretty my at this prison, but he also is very easily manipulating people to basically do his shit for him, right? So that's kind of shitty. So after the sentencing went down, they had obviously interviewed the parents, and David's mother said Milat can still come out and live some of his life, which is something that David will never be able to do. So she's upset. She also said he should not have been allowed to leave until he was as cold and gray in a body bag like my son when he left the forest. And I agree with her. I think it's complete shit. I understand that he was 17, but I don't think he should ever get out of jail. Because if he is 62 when he gets out of prison, that's like...
Here's the thing. I get it. It's a different fucking country and stuff like that. But if that was the U.S., even, first of all, they would have charged you as an adult. Period, point fucking blank. Like, I know you're 17.
They could have. Yes, they could have. You're correct.
100%.
But you know what they could not have done? They could not have given him the death penalty. I know that because he was 17. But
that's
they could
fine. But they could have let him fucking rot in prison for life.
I was just gonna say, but they could put him in jail for the rest of his life.
But here's the thing, though. If I'm being honest, he probably could give two shits that he's in prison.
Absolutely,
because he already has that fucking status.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said it's
even
unfortunate.
life in prison for him is probably cush as fuck.
Yeah, that's why I said it's unfortunate that he's held to. He's not gonna being in prison isn't gonna do shit for him, to be honest with you, because he's living the life of a prisoner who is probably not being taken advantage of. He's not having. I guarantee you, he's not having the same experience as Cohen. I guarantee you, Cohen's prison experience is very different. So there's that. Also, David's grandfather said, "I don't care about his rehabilitation. Hopefully, by the time he leaves jail, he'll be past it." What I think he means, or at least what I took it as, is that I'm hoping that he dies before he gets out of jail.
That's always one's hope.
The thing that sucks is I look at the age and I go 62. Okay, so your parents
are around that age.
I was just gonna say my parents are 65 and like 67 or some shit, and they're like, yes, they are. Yes, they are. Why are you saying no? Yes, they are.
No.
Yes, they are.
No, Papa just turned 60.
He just turned 65, motherfucker. That's why he retired.
Grandma's almost 70. What
Do the math.
hell?
Do the math. I think it's 57. I don't even know because I'm not.
I'm not even asking for the math.
Anyways. Yeah, no, they're
keeping it young, Grandma.
They're in their 60s, right? But my point is, my parents are in their 60s and they are living their best life right now. They are out roaming the United States and living the retired life. And so I think about that and I go, how unfair is that somebody is going to potentially get out of prison at a time where, honestly, if he takes care of himself while he's in prison, he's got shit. He could have a good 30, maybe even 40 years left on his life when he gets out. That just seems so not right. And again, I agree with what the judge said. This was not like a kid crime. This was the crime of somebody who maliciously wanted to hurt somebody.
Right.
This is the crime of somebody who planned it out and knew exactly what he was doing and did it. And he has zero remorse about it. He brags about it. Although it was stated that in his appeal in 2014, when he did his appeal, it was stated that he had written letters to David's family, apologies to them, and talking about how like he feels really bad and he wishes that he didn't do it. And the judge,
did he ever say why he did it?
Yeah. Because, remember, because he was
right.
a shit talker. Which again, David's mom actually said, she goes, I think it was his mom said, no, he just wanted to maliciously kill somebody. It had nothing to, no shit. It wasn't shit talking. It was, he wanted to murder somebody. He wanted to, as she put it, he wanted to be just as good as his uncle. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I actually do believe that. I agree with that. I believe that. And so I do think that was a big part of it. Now, his uncle, just for those of you who don't listen to Fatal Blend, his uncle died. His uncle died claiming his innocence. His uncle swears on his whatever that he did not murder these people. I call bullshit. If you listen to Fatal Blend, you'll understand why. I just think he didn't want to admit it. Well, he was alive when Matthew was arrested and charged and put in jail for murder. He was alive. And they told him. Now, there are two different things that I've read. So when I was doing my research on Ivan, it said that he was actually not very happy to hear that his great nephew was a murderer, and he was kind of disappointed. However, in this research, a confidential person that works at the prison said, I was there when they told him, and he laughed and then asked a bunch of questions about it. That sounds more like probably.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that too. Anyways, so I basically, what sucks in this whole scenario is that most likely these two guys will get out of prison, and they will be in their 60s, 50s and 60s when they get out, and they're going to be able to live their life. And I will never understand how you can maliciously take somebody's life and still have the ability to have your own later on. And it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with a lot of people, actually.
Because you're a fucking psychopath.
No, because I care.
No, not you.
Oh, I'm like, I care. What do you
When you were
about?
saying you can't be someone like that, and I was saying because they're a psychopath.
Right, they are. Yeah, and he definitely has some serious. My only hope would be that his time in prison, which I can already tell you right now based off the research I did, it's not. My only hope is that during prison he gets a lot of help to try to figure out if he does have something wrong with him or if he's just an evil person. But I can tell you right now that's not happening because he's living the high motherfucking life in there. So like I said, Cohen's experience is probably very different. Cohen might come out a changed person. I don't know. I didn't choose to really dig into it because, to be honest with you, Cohen's not of interest to me because he's still charged with it. Now, I will say also David's mom did also come out and say that she thinks all three of them are murderers, including Chase. And again, I think I'd feel the same way if it was my kid, because again, like I said, there were 3 of you that were not being hurt. 2 of you could have fought him. He had an axe, yes, but 2 of you could have outmuscled him and you could have probably saved David's life. If I was with my group of friends and there was 4 of us, I sure as shit am not going to stand there and watch my friends kill one of my other friends. I would never, even if that meant I died trying, I would never have sat there and I fucking sure as hell would not have videoed it and just stared at it. I would not have done that. So there's that part of it where it's like, well, there's something off obviously with Cohen as well, because you can't, who just sits there. Also, if you haven't, take a look at Cohen and you tell me if you think that he was more involved than they say, because I think he was. That is the story of Matthew Milat, whose uncle is a serial killer, and he turned out to be a killer too. So killing runs in the family. And actually, if you haven't listened to Fatal Blend, go listen to it because it really does run in the family. That's all I'm going to say.
Now I have to watch.
You are going to have to listen to it. You have to now. There is no choice. Anyways, that is where we're at. If you like the episodes, if you like us and you like to hear us talk about the shit we talk about, follow us on all of our socials, Crime Bitches Podcast or Crime Bee Podcast, depending on where you're at. Click the follow button. Share us with anybody that you think might enjoy to listen to us talk. And until next time, this is the part where I'm going to say, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.